Welcome in DNVR Bets Daily. We've got a special one today because, Henry, I have managed to fall in love with this lowly slate. That's MLB, no Rockies, MLS doubleheader. You haven't watched the game. We're kind of prepping for the Olympics here, so I crunched a bunch of data so we could hammer all these over-unders that DraftKings has available to us. It's the most special episode of all, not just because Henry has survived golfing in Montana time and time again, despite bears being on the course, which a miracle in and of itself, something to celebrate truly. That's bigger than a plus 5,000 win, you being alive and being with us.
Yeah.
But DNVR mastermind celebrity, he's been on podcasts that you and I, Hank, could only dream of successfully downloading, frankly. Forget being a guest on. Adam Marr is behind it all. And he has told us he will be wagering on every single bet we give. I've got an interesting strategy for you, Adam, on what to do with Henry's pick. So don't get too trigger heavy early. All right, Henry, we've got a lot to jump into. I think you're at a crossroads here because you're either a genius or you will be lactose intolerant after this one, because I fear that you're taking a lot of cheese in this big three, but that's okay. Sometimes summer slates like this are meant for you to take the cheese. Who am I to judge? So let's start with your big three guests first. It's an interesting one. It's a spicy one, and you used a proven method, Henry, for every single pick here. So break it down for us.
So basically, I looked through our MLB slate today and thought, which of these teams are good?
Oh, yes.
And so I picked a couple of those. I picked a player who I've heard is also very, very, very good himself. Gosh. And so when you add those three good things together, I have a feeling that this is going to be a pretty good group of bets.
I think you became a wise guy just now. Let's go to Henry's big three. It's a work of art, frankly, and done by D-Line. So, a little extra artistry. Look at that beautiful beard on the graphic. Okay, Henry, what we got?
So we're going to start with this Red Sox money line. They're playing the Yankees. They're at home.
Big rivalry, I'm told.
Yes. No, I've heard the same.
Nice.
Not sure if it's true, but I have heard the same.
Okay.
Here's why we're doing it. The Red Sox, from what I was told at a bar on Saturday, and have been unable to confirm myself, the Red Sox have beaten the Yankees every time this season except for one. Now, one was a 9-1 loss, and it was just like a few days ago. Probably fresh in the line maker's mind. Probably giving you a little extra juice on the Red Sox.
Okay.
So that's where we're going there.
Okay, love it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then let's go to what was your next pick there?
So the next one, Shohei Ohtani. So
Showtime.
Also, I've heard very good things about him.
So true.
My thought was I was looking through all of the odds boost type of things today, and there's a special on DraftKings where if you take a player to hit a home run,
yes,
he doesn't hit a home run, but he does hit a run, then you get your money back. Shohei Ohtani, like I said, very good. I was just running through all of the MLB games. This was an over-under set at 9.5, which was the highest of all of them, which means the most runs scored. So I thought, well, who's going to be the best player in this game? Again, probably Shohei Ohtani. I know his name.
There you go.
And, so that was how I went to him for this home run bet.
Beautiful. Yes. And as a Rockies fan, you know all about the Dodgers. Prolific.
Boy, do I. Yeah. So I went to the Rockies game on Friday.
Yeah.
It was not a good time though, because the Dodgers scored 5 runs in the first inning and then scored 5 more runs throughout the course of the rest of the game. It might have been more than that, but I don't really remember.
Hate that. Yeah.
My takeaway, they are very good. And so because of that, I thought, well, why not put some money on the good team? And since I already took a money line, I said, let's take a run line, take a -1.5 against San Francisco, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Dre, but they're bad.
Well, that's where I think that's where we gotcha is dun 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 in the M. Night Shyamalan twist of this episode. San Francisco is good. They actually have a better record than the Dodgers in the NL West. They've kind of been the surprise of of the season with a 60-35 record, which, believe it or not, young Hank, that leads not just the NL, it leads the majors. Wow. And tonight they have, dare I say, going up against Walker Buehler, their ace pitcher, Anthony DeSclafani, who's rocking a 2.78 ERA, a whip under 1, which is outstanding. And that is why with the Giants 6-4 in the last 10 against the Dodgers, and currently up 2 of the last 3 in this series, I have the Dodgers to lose, but not by 2. So I am going opposite of you with that with that Giants run line there at -145. I was going to say you got to love that. Henry apparently doesn't.
I don't know.
That's just fine, though. That's just fine. People do think the Dodgers will start surging. And who knows, maybe the pixie dust leaves the Giants here in the second half. Though, again, they have won 2 of the 3 in this current series they are locked in on against LA, and 6 of the last 10. Also, of the 7 defeats they have faced against LA, 3 by a run or less, and 2 by 2 runs or less. So you got to love that. Atlanta against Philly, that's Braves against Phillies in Philadelphia. We're going Yurfie, yes, run first inning. That means we're going to have a score. Henry, I had some terrible success with no run first innings, but guess what's happened? Now I give out yes run first innings, and these all hit. It's been glorious. Atlanta and Philly, both top 7 scoring teams in the majors in the first inning, both averaging well over 0.7 runs per game. That means we are looking at an average of 1.5 plus per game runs in this one. So you love that. And I believe 'tis the Phillies with a garbage pitcher on the mound. So you got to love that. And then to close it out, there are few things I know well, Henry, but one of those is something that you've essentially alluded to already multiple times in this episode. It is called a Coors Field hangover. Familiar, my friend?
Yes, I am. I've had plenty.
Well, you know who the Oakland A's are taking on today? They are taking on the Seattle Mariners, who are coming from one Coors Field. And that is bad news bears for Seattle, because it means that the bats just won't be slapping Sean Manaea on the mound for the A's. Love that for them. The A's are hot. The Mariners, any Mariners fan knows, and I sadly know this because I call a few family. They haven't made the playoffs in damn near 2 decades. They actually have an above 500 record, and everyone in Seattle knows that the downturn is right around the corner. Their pitching's been nice. It's not going to last, Henry. They are losing tonight, -150. Extremely good value for the A's, who again have the advantage of having stayed at sea level throughout, while the Mariners are coming from altitude. They're just not going to see the ball right. We know that better than anyone, Henry. And there you go. You can lock those in. I also, speaking of Seattle, have a little bonus pick for you because we have an MLS doubleheader. I would love to do a shtick because we have always a bunch of Austins in our comments. And Austin, I think it's FC, is a team in the MLS. They're an expansion team. But look, Seattle Sounders, much better. They lost their first game of the season in this last game. It's not going to happen once again. You're getting them at tremendous value. This line has basically flipped from where it opened. You've got some injuries and absences for the Sounders, but they're still the better team for me. And at +175 on a tie no bet line, I love that. Love that.
The Seattle Sounders cursed me out once.
I have to hear more. Tell me.
I was hoping you would want to. Yeah. I was playing in like a lacrosse tournament in high school in Seattle, and it was at their training facility. And we had booked the field to practice on that field that night. But the Seattle Sounders were having none of it. They did not want to see a bunch of freshmen and sophomore high schoolers taking their field. We eventually agreed to split it. The Seattle Sounders were very upset, though.
Wow, that's rough. I think producer Ali has had a similar experience with ice skating rinks and the Philadelphia Flyers not being. Yeah, so maybe there's something to that, you know. So yeah, there you go. That frankly, that news does change my pick just a little bit.
Really
makes them less likable. Yes,
it does make them less likable, but maybe that attitude.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
Yeah.
I'm back in.
Mamba mentality.
Great point, Henry. Mamba mentality indeed. Mamba, Kobe would absolutely have cussed out some kids for having been on his practice court. He would not have allowed that. Mm-hmm. All that and more. This parlayable big threes on both ends, Henry. And you know, dare I say, mine's parlayable, and I gave you a bonus pick. That's baby beluga status in the plus 1200s, folks. Plus 1200s to take my 3 picks plus the bonus pick plus 175 Sounders tie no bet. Henry's picks, I don't know what it is if you parlay them together. I know that if you want to fade his picks and parlay those together, it's plus 399. And that's kind of my vibe tonight, Henry. I hate that. I've never been ruder to a guest on this show than I'm being to you right now.
Well, I think that if you're not trying to make much money, you go Dre's route. If you want to make a lot of money, you parlay my picks and go plus 1115, which is a pretty big payout.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, right, because of course he has Ohtani to hit a homer, which is quite the long shot. But hey, at least you have that insurance if Ohtani hits that, at least scores a run, even if he doesn't hit one out the park. I like Matt Olson for that boost. All those great boosts, insurances, deals, odds can be found at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one sportsbook in all of the land. They are simply the best of the best. Right now, new users can bet $1 on the U.S. I think it's on any Olympic event. And if the U.S. wins a medal, and that's any medal, the over-under they have is set in the 110s. So it's a stone cold lock for them to win a medal. New users will win $150. That's all on the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download that now and use code DNVR when you sign up. For a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. DraftKings Sportsbook will match you that. It's the best of the best, Henry. We are on it all the time. Had a little error message for a minute there today, and my life wasn't the same because it's not just about placing bets. It's about seeing the lines. It's about their stats hub section. It's about their phenomenal pools, which we'll get into in just a second. It's just the best. Never ending fun. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Henry, we've kept you busy. Yeah, best pitcher though, Austin isn't. Sean Manaea is a better pitcher in this matchup. So
yes, he is.
I hear you and I respect you, Austin. But we've seen the data on that Coors Field hangover, and it's just not good. It's just not good. So the first game back to Coors or away from Coors, it's just never going to slap right. And the Mariners, I'm telling you, the second half crumble, it's right around the corner, Austin. So I respect it, but I respectfully disagree. Henry, we're taking advantage of your appearance on this show, but yet I fear that I'm putting a lot on your plate because I know you've been very busy, not just being in Montana and trying to enjoy yourself, but you've been filling in for stuff left and right as I have. So I don't know how much golf you've seen. I don't know if you watched Sweden and the U.S.
I did. That was a late night.
That was a late night. You love to hear it. And that's our dilemma of the day. Does Henry still believe in the U.S. women's national team, who maybe gave us some tremendous value after that loss at plus 120? Do not like what I saw, Henry.
Yeah.
Also, some live golf picks. We've got the 3M going on. A tournament that's near and dear to our hearts. Big Tone, Tony Finau, and DJ Dustin Johnson not starting off too hot. So really some the odds flipping on those. And then we've got a pool because it's summertime and we need to have some fun, especially previewing the Olympics. And I've got a bunch of data on that to get into. So, Henry, first off, U.S. women's national team value, or are we running for the hills at this point?
So I had decided not to bet on them before it started. So they've now moved to plus 130 to win the tournament, and I still think I'm staying away. So, like you mentioned, they lost 3-0 to Sweden in the opening game of the group stage. They've got 2 games left in the group stage. They play New Zealand next, and then they close things out with Australia. If they win both those, they'll advance into the bracket, whatever they call it, the knockout. Yeah. That's the soccer word. And then if they have a draw on one, they should still be fine. Mm-hmm. The issue is there's a lot working against the U.S. right now. I mean, for example, there's never been a team that's won the World Cup and then won the Olympics in the next Olympics. And you have that sort of history.
That's what got them last time. That's why the Olympics this time around were really they circled it in red, Yep.
Yeah. And that didn't work out great. Sweden beat them 3-0. It was also Sweden who knocked them out of the last Olympics. Yeah. I think the last time they gave up 3 goals was against Australia in 2017. The last time they didn't score a goal in a match was also against Australia. I think that was back in 2019.
This makes me sad.
With the Australia game coming up, and that's the one that you have to win probably to get through, there's a lot working against the U.S. Yeah. I think that there's some other things that's working against them too. Being the favorite in a tournament like this, it just means there's not much value. And Sweden's really good. Brazil looked great in its first game with Dabinia and Marta up top. They're going to be scoring a bunch of goals. They're like the 5th best team in this tournament. I think that this is a lot closer than people give it credit for. And I personally am staying away, but pulling hard for them. It's the odds are against them, even at plus 130.
Putting your heart aside, is there maybe some value in Sweden at this point, or Australia, or Brazil?
Yeah. So this Sweden team is probably the best Sweden team they've ever had. There's a lot of players from the last Olympics where they knocked the U.S. out that have grown and kind of turned in themselves, and they really didn't lose all that much. They're very athletic. They play really good defense, but they made some changes, and now they're attacking a lot more up top, getting balls deep, and it's working. Outside of that, though, I mentioned Brazil with Marta and Dabinia. Their odds are not great. I'm going to try to pull these up, but I want to say they're like plus 2,000 or something.
Plus 900 right now.
Oh, is that what it is? Plus 900? Yeah, I do like them too, just because of the goal scoring ability. The other fun one, I guess, would be Japan. Japan was kind of the U.S. rival for quite a while. A lot of their players aged out. But
I remember an electric semifinal. I forget if that was last Olympics or last World Cup. But
I think it was the last. No, I think it was last World Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm staying away from the U.S. Oh, they're down to plus 120 now.
Yeah.
To me, Sweden's probably the safe pick. And if you want a little more risk, that Brazil team is a lot of fun.
Nice. Wow, that was incredibly informative.
I had to balance out my baseball takes.
Legitimately impressed.
This knowledge is useful once every 2 years.
Almost at a loss for words. I'm so impressed right now. That was phenomenal. Yeah. Exactly who we needed to break that down. I know you've been on the Broncos pod all morning, so haven't had a chance, but just from looking at the field, anyone stand out to you who's jumped up in the standings as kind of a new horse? Because from what I can see, Dustin Johnson and Big Tone Tony Finau, very disappointing. I think both over par today.
Yeah, I think to me, and this is going to be kind of a lame pick, Ricky Fowler is sitting there in second place, or at least before we started this, he was sitting there in second place. Now he has the best odds. It's only plus 900. But doesn't it just feel like a Ricky Fowler tournament? It's right after a major. It's a bunch of the big guys are either not there or maybe not totally locked in because they're coming out the Open. They have like the flight back to the US on top of all of that. It just feels like the kind of situation where it's like a Ricky Fowler, somebody who's consistent, somebody who's a good golfer, but not maybe the flashiest, can just put together a few good rounds, and he's off to a good enough start, which is, in my opinion, kind of thing with Ricky Fowler. Does he have the one round?
Yes. Does he have the legs?
Really gets low.
Yeah.
And then you trust him to at least be a few under outside of that. And so now that he does have a pretty great round going, he's 7 under through 15 holes. Yeah. It's kind of a lazy pick, but I do think if I were to make a bet, it would be him at plus 900 right now.
I'll take it. Sounds good to me. I crunched a bunch of data on these Olympic specials. Go to All Sports. It's under O, Olympic specials, and you have over-unders for, I don't know, about 20 different countries on Olympic total medals. I think the U.S. is a stay away. I'll tell you right now. I use 3 different figures, the 26 totals, the 2012 totals, and these projections from Grace Note that are being cited all over the place, which I found interesting. But, the U.S. is projected with 96 total medals. Their number is set at 112.5. They obviously had 121 in 2016, but 104 in 2012. So both the projections and 2012 numbers significantly under. And I just don't think you're going to see the same results from some of the, track and field. Obviously, I mean, one of your best athletes is out with Sha'Carri Richards. I don't think you're going to have some of the same, studs in swimming that obviously you had in 2012 with Phelps, 2016 with Missy Franklin and others like that. So I would just stay away. What I think is really, really intriguing is, for starters, Germany. Their number set at 33.5, projected at 35. They had 42 in 2016, 44 in 2012. I think you can take that over at minus 120 pretty comfortably. I feel the same about Great Britain, who had an outstanding 2016 Olympics. They were second in both 16 and 12 in the medal count. Actually 12, I'm sorry. They were on the podium behind China. But 67 and 65 and projected with 52. All they have to clear is 44.5. They won't have some of the same stars they had in cycling, for example. Rowing, I heard they might not have as many. But I think they still should easily be in the 50s. And I think could flirt with the 60s as well. So clearing 44.5 is something I like a lot. I think China's being overrated a bit at 85.5. They did win 91 in Beijing, but 70 in the last Olympics, projected at 66. And I know it's in Southeast Asia, so both them and Japan their numbers are set extremely high. And the data would suggest that's a bit of an overrate. And I get the home field factor, but I would warn against the fact that fans are mostly going to be kept outside the stadiums.
Yeah, and I think that is a good thing to point out.
Right.
Fans are not going to play any sort of factor.
100%. Yeah. If anything, it might be more, media availability that you have to give, a little more outside pressure and stuff like that, which actually might just turn out to be more of a distraction. Mm-hmm. So those are a couple that have me quite intrigued.
All right. I like it.
I also think the Denmark over set at 9.5, projected at 13, 15 in the last Olympics. I think you can hit that over as well, but I'm really bullish about Germany and Great Britain.
That Denmark one would be a lot of fun to bet, because it's not like it's
the low number
for Great Britain.
Yeah.
And you watch them get a medal and you're like, oh yeah, there's one. But when you get a medal for Denmark, when you only need 10, that would be a rush.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Those lower numbers. Well, if you love a low number, Belgium set at 7.5. My data, There's no projections, which only the top 30 were projected. And they were under the last 6 in 2016, 3 in 2012. So all the data would suggest hammer the under. They, though, at 7.5, have some real stars, especially in cycling. And those guys just medal in a couple. All of a sudden, you're right there on 7.5.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I'm frankly quite sad that I can't parlay.
Do you have any numbers on gold medals?
I do for 16 and 12.
Okay. So I'm curious if that would be different, because what's the U.S. line? U.S. line is set at 43.5 at minus 125.
43.5.
Minus 1.
So 46 and 16 and 46 in 2012 as well.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I am American, but it feels like if I'm rooting for them, I'm gonna want to be rooting for them to win, not take third.
To win golds, right?
America, we get golds.
I'm with you, and you wonder, like basketball, I'm not as confident. U.S. women's national team, you just laid out how things are a little tricky on that end. So
to balance out, if anybody wants to be hopeful about the women's national team, they hadn't lost in like 43 consecutive games, or 44, something like that, over the last 2.5 years. They had one draw in that time, and it was also to Sweden. So it's not like they're in bad shape, and they've got a great roster. It's just that
not outstanding
odds. Oh, it's incredible.
I mean, that midfield especially should just be able to take over games. I think the problem is it's not that we've overrated the U.S. team, which is clearly just one of the great soccer teams, men or women in the history of the sport. It's how good the rest of the world has got. I mean, they have superstars, and with the U.S. raising up the game and, more pro leagues and stuff, that it's just raising all boats, and it's the same thing we're seeing in basketball.
Yep, and with the U.S., I mean, you talk about that midfield, they're usually just picking teams apart. Like, they're just so sharp through there, just bang, 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 all the way through. But then again, Sweden just locked down the middle of the field, overfilled it, and the U.S. was just kicking long balls over the top, down the wings, trying to get something to happen, and that's not their game. If they play Sweden again, that's going to be what they see, is them trying to lock down the middle. But can they just be smarter about adjusting, finding a way through? Like, it's possible. I don't know. I really hope they figure it out. Well,
it sounds like a must-win already against Australia. When's that happening?
Australia, that'll be when I'm in LA. It's the first night. So technically like Monday night at 2:30 Denver time, or like Tuesday morning at 2:30 Denver time, depending on what you want to call it. But they do play New Zealand before then. And that they should win that. It would be if they lose that'd be
disastrous.
Big problem. But
that would be disastrous.
Saturday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning. And I will say, I think that the U.S. gets overrated, and because they're in people's heads as the superpower, which they kind of are, the odds are skewed in favor of them winning.
Yeah.
Coming off a loss, though, there's probably some value betting on the U.S. in that game. I'm not sure if we have lines up for that yet, though.
Well, I mean, and the lines have switched quite a bit. Is there any way to bet for Sweden versus U.S. for gold?
I'm checking. It doesn't look like it.
No.
That's too bad.
No. That is a shame. That'd be like a tie no bet, and then like if Australia or Brazil won it, you get your money back. I was going to do a pool, but it's too skateboarding involved. I'm not hip enough for this. So if you guys want to submit those answers and teach me about what I should expect from Olympic skateboarding, I'm all ears. Absolutely.
U.S. minus 3.5 at plus 105 against New Zealand. I'm in.
There you go. He's in. We're in. We are parlaying my big three. It's a user's choice on Henry's. And yeah, we're going to have a grand old time. There's your Olympic bets. We'll be back tomorrow for a big weekend preview as always. Thank you to Adam for producing. Best of luck on all your bets, folks. See you then.